Hello everyone, this is Jimmy. So if you're like me and you are keeping up with any information regarding the competitive Pokemon circuit, then you will have likely seen the information from Cerebi that was released recently, talking about the upcoming format changes to the Pokemon games. And I'm a little vague with how I say that because there was technically two formats that they talked about. The official format for any in-person events that are sanctioned by the Pokemon Company. All of those are going to be going to Regulation H, which we have had before, which is the format that includes no legendary Pokemon, no restricted Pokemon, and no Paradox Pokemon as well, but it's the open Pokedex for the games. We've had it before, it's fun, whatever. What we're talking about today is the other format that they announced, which is Regulation J, where that is basically Regulation I, but they've added in mythical Pokemon, which is not a normal thing. And the reason why they're separating this is because not a lot of people have access to the mythical Pokemon that are now allowed into the game. This is because mythical Pokemon typically are distributed via events and are a lot more limited in accessibility. So they're trying to make sure that that isn't a problem for any official events, but we are going to be playing with the mythical Pokemon on ladder. So I wanted to make a video today that is completely speculative and also from the perspective of someone who has never used a mythical Pokemon in his life, on how I expect these Pokemon to perform in the upcoming format. That said, there's a little bit of difference between how this would function as opposed to regular events anyway. Not only because there's mythical Pokemon that are allowed, but because they aren't going to any official events, meaning we're not doing any official VGC open team sheet best of 3. We're going to be sticking almost explicitly to closed team sheet best of 1, outside of some community stuff like limitless tours and whatever. So that's going to kind of change how these Pokemon are going to perform as well, and that's actually going to play a big factor, I think, in some of their viability, but I'll get into that more as we go. The other thing I need to mention is that a lot of Pokemon on this list probably aren't even going to be that good at all. This format is essentially going to be Regulation I, meaning that you get access to 2 restricted Pokemon, but now Mythicals will take up the slot of one of your restricteds. So while it would be cool to run something like Manaphy and Mew, it'd be hard to justify doing that when Miraidon, Calyrex Shadow, Koraidon, Lunala, all these big behemoths still exist in the game. I think some of these Pokemon will add ways to support the other restricteds, and some of them will find ways to patch up their bad matchups per se. But for the most part, a lot of these Pokemon aren't going to be that useful. I'll talk about that more individually as I need to. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and do us all a favor and rule out the Pokemon that no one should be using. And it's going to be all of these. Mega Diancie was just on this list. It was the only one I found. Everything else here is going to be what I would classify as a baby form, where all of these have different either evolutions or new forms that you can get access to. That's just a strict upgrade, so there's no real reason to use these. They're basically mythical baby Pokemon, so they don't really count. Before I even jump into the bulk of the tier list, there's one I have to talk about immediately, and it's Magearna. So for those who aren't in the know, Magearna has an ability called Soul Heart, and what that does is anytime a Pokemon on the field faints, Magearna gets a special attack boost. That applies to both partner and enemy Pokemon. So, there's a specific Pokemon that's really good right now in Regulation I that KOs both itself and an opposing Pokemon almost every time, and that's Scarf Annihilate. Magearna is also a slow Pokemon that gets Trick Room and has the best typing in the game in Steel and Fairy. If you haven't picked up on what I'm putting down yet, basically, Magearna and Scarf Annihilate are the perfect pair of Pokemon, because Scarf Annihilate will move faster than most things in the format, and then fire off a final Gambit, KOing both itself and an opposing Pokemon immediately. Magearna is then able to set up Trick Room safely for it and its partner Pokemon that are in the back and is going to come in after Annihilate faints, while it's also getting a +2 setup in the same turn. So in one turn, you can essentially remove a restricted Pokemon from your opponent's team, give your Magearna Nasty Plot, and set up Trick Room to just sweep on the spot. This is a disgusting duo, and before anyone does anything in terms of team building in Regulation J, these two are going to be the two that you have to have a plan for every time. Terra Ghost, Focus Sashes, a faster Pokemon that can damage Annihilate before it can do anything, Taunt for Magearna, reversing Trick Room, anything you can do to slow this down, you need to be ready for it. Just a nightmare duo in general. And it's easily like the first thing on everyone's list of just like, yeah, this is free wins. Like, if you aren't ready for this matchup, you will lose the game 9 times out of 10, if not more. So please just be ready for that. It's awful. Moving on from that nightmare fuel, before I keep going, I need to explain the tier list. So we have very strong, obviously, Magearna tier. These are things you have to be ready for. Generally good. Pokemon you'll probably see. Pretty consistent. Not amazing on every team or into every matchup, but generally pretty good. Niche but usable. Self-explanatory. Technically not bad, meaning that like they can do stuff, but it's not going to be very consistent and it's not going to be very good at what they do. And there's probably things that are better than them at doing what they want to do. And then there's not worth a slot where it's like, just use something else. There's just a direct upgrade somewhere else in the game, or it's just not worth it whatsoever. So moving on, I'm going to go on with the, what I call the 100s category. And all of these Pokemon have 100 in every one of their stats. That's as diverse as their spreads get, right? Or as their stats get, I should say. The interesting thing about these is that you can build them technically whichever way you want. Some of them can be really fast offensive. Some of them can be really slow and bulky, whatever you want to do. However, again, going into the this is a restricted format mindset, you have to keep in mind that a lot of these Pokemon aren't keeping up with modern standards, right? Like a base 600 stat pool is nice, but when it's 100 in every category, like in most of these, if not all of them, are special attackers, that 100 in attack isn't really doing a whole lot. Not really doing them any favors. So at that point, their utility comes from, and their strength comes from their abilities and their move pools. And some of these do not have very good either of those. So let's go ahead and get those out of the way. First of all, Celebi. Dog water Pokemon. Do not use this thing. It is allergic to half the main moves in the format. U-Turn, Snarl, Astro Barrage, Glacial Lance, Flare Blitz. What else did I have? I had Snarl. I have a whole list of things here for it because it's terrible. Pollen Puff of all things. Bleakwind Storm. All of these things hit Celebi really hard and they are some of the most common moves in the game. Please do not use Celebi. It's terrible. It doesn't do anything offensively or defensively. It's got an awful type combo in Grass Psychic, and its ability doesn't do anything for it. Like, it's just not good. Do not use Celebi, no matter what anyone tells you, even if it's Jody, don't listen to him. I know it's his favorite Pokemon, I don't care. It's not good. We'll go ahead and put Shaman, I think is not very good. Not really worth anything. Someone's gonna use it. I think honestly you should just put it down here too. It's not doing anything. It's a pure grass type. It has nothing to offer its teammates or its opponents. It's kind of just a dead slot. Manaphy is slightly better just because it gets access to Tail Glow, but like I don't know what you're doing with it after you set up Tail Glow outside of like Hydro Pump and Terra Blast. It's just not enough. 100 base stat total, again, is not enough to justify this, especially when half the restricted Pokemon in the game either eat hits from this thing or delete this thing in one hit. Also, like, Rillaboom exists and just OHKOs this thing. Like, just don't do this. Okay, now we actually have some, like, decent options. Jirachi, also, I guess not really worth a slot. It has Serene Grace, it has Iron Head, meaning its Iron Heads have, like, a 60-ish% chance to flinch, but, like, it's not really worth it. Give it a Choice Scarf. It's gimmicky, but it's not good. It's not doing anything. But then Mew, I think, is actually interesting because Mew is basically Smeargle, where it can learn any move in the game, except it has 100 in every stat category. So meaning you can bulk it out a lot more easily and also make it a little bit faster if you want to as well. The biggest issue is that Mew is weak to Astral Barrage, whereas Smeargle is completely immune to it, and that's a big draw for why you want to use Smeargle in the first place. Second, Smeargle gets access to Moody, and Moody plus Spore means that in the right circumstances, a speed drop or a speed boost can basically win you the game by making Smeargle faster than everything else on the board. Click Spore, your partner KOs it, and then you win the game. So I do think a lot of people are gonna use Mew as a nice, cool, like, supportive Pokemon, but I don't see how it's going to be like consistently good. I think it's like this is a restricted slot Smeargle that is also going to lose to Cali Shadow instead of beating it, or at least ignoring it. I honestly think the more I look at this, the more I'm like, no. I think people will use it. They will find a way for it, but like, I just use Smeargle. I think genuinely just use Smeargle. Victini is actually kind of interesting. Victini has a legitimate niche here, where Victini's ability basically boosts the accuracy for both it and its partner of all of their moves. And given that Victini is a fire type, it actually pairs really well in next to Groudon, because Groudon can actually make Precipice Blades kind of consistent at that point whenever it has that accuracy boost. And then Groudon setting the sun boosts up Victini's fire type attacks. And Victini has this move called V-Create, which is an absurdly powerful fire type move. And when you factor in the sun, it's going to be doing a lot of damage. Victini also gets Final Gambit, by the way, so like technically that's an option, but if you're going to do Final Gambit stuff, just use Annihilate. Annihilate is better than Victini in every way for that. Alright, sorry. Sorry about the weird pause. I forget where I was at. I had someone come in and talk to me for a second. Anyway, okay, moving on. So I'm going to talk about Deoxys forms next. Just get all of these out of the way at the same time. So all of these are very min-max stats on each of these Pokemon. However, none of them are really good. I think Deoxys Attack is probably your best bet for finding any form of success, just because he is probably like the premier Expanding Force abuser outside of Calyrex Shadow. And I mentioned Calyrex Shadow because they have the same speed. So Deoxys Attack, while obviously does like move very fast and hit very hard, it is still very frail, and also can just speed tie and lose to Calyrex Shadow Rider, meaning that it's not going to be very consistent, and it also doesn't have Astral Barrage, right? The only real strength that Deoxys Attack has over Calyrex Shadow is that it has a little bit more diversity in its move coverage, but that's about it. Honestly, if you're still using Expanding Force, like you're probably sticking to Lunala or CSR anyway, just because of their like general bulk, and the fact that also one can completely snowball a game by picking up a double KO and immediately winning the game. Deoxys defense, I don't really see a use for. It doesn't have the utility moves that it wants. If it got Wide Guard, I could see that being an option, but it's got an insane amount of bulk. But at the same time, it doesn't have that much bulk because its HP is pretty low. It just has high defense stats. And then when you're not doing any damage and you're not offering a lot of utility or support, you're not really doing anything. You're kind of just fat for no reason. And I think that describes this mon like perfectly. Deoxys speed is arguably like it is potentially better than Deoxys Attack for the sole purpose of it is faster than Calyrex Shadow, and that means that you can just click Shadow Ball and outspeed and KO CSR. But when the trade-off is you're not hitting that hard and you're also not sweeping and you're still incredibly paper thin defenses, like it's still not doing anything. And again, like lack of actual utility moves, I don't see a lot of people using it. Someone will use like basically everything on here at some point, but generally speaking, it's not going to be very good. And then Deoxys Normal is just going to be a worse version of the attack and the speed with none of the bulk from the defense. There's not a whole lot else to it. Now we get to talk about the two big boys. Both Melmetal and Arceus I think are very good Pokemon. Arceus first. Arceus is immediately, I would argue, and it's not even a very hard argument, that it's much better than Magearna. The big thing with Arceus is that, especially in closed team sheet, best of one, right? Arceus can be any type in the game. Its ability means that whatever plate it is holding, it becomes that type. So if it's an Earth plate, it's a ground type, Spooky plate, Ghost, etc., etc. And Arceus has a very deep move pool, meaning that you can build this thing in any way you want. Speaking of building it, it has 120 in all of its stats, period. So big ball of numbers, any type it wants to be in the game, and very deep move pool with a really good signature attack that changes type with whatever type it is. it's just going to be like a matchup patch where, like, let's say you have a Miraidon team that feels really, really good into everything that's not Groudon or something, right? And your response to that is, all right, cool. Well, if that's my issue, I can go for Grass Plate Arceus with Solar Beam, and then KO Groudon on the spot every time. Nothing it can do about it, right? Easy peasy. If you are using a Koraidon team and you need to match up into Kyogre, then you can go for like probably again Grass type Arceus or Water type Arceus and give it Thunder, like. Especially in the format of best of one closed team sheet, Arceus is probably public enemy number 1 just because you can do anything else you want with it. The best form of Arceus, and probably the most generally used immediately, like off rip, is going to be what is known in the singles community as E-Killer Arceus, where it is extreme speed, Swords Dance, and then since it's a VGC, probably a clear amulet as the item, maybe a life orb if you want to get risky with it, and then especially because we're in Gen 9, you can go Terra Normal, baby! And just Swords Dance, 120 base attack, double stab with Terra, super fast priority move, and then the best part about that is all of the remaining stat points that you have, just put them in bulk. Who cares? You don't need the speed. You're clicking extreme speed, right? It doesn't matter. Very terrifying. So that's something else you're definitely going to have, be it in Psychic Terrain or Farigiraf, something like that. You're going to need some kind of response to handle Arceus. It's going to be a huge problem, and that's not including the 17 other types it can be. It's going to be wild to see all kinds of to see what kind of sets we see coming out of this. It also has like really bulky, annoying setup stuff. It's got like Calm Mind. I think it has Iron Defense. It's got everything it needs, right? It's just, it is the god Pokemon, and it's definitely gonna be a problem going forward. But I'm kind of excited for it, honestly. It's gonna be really cool to see how people use it as like a matchup patch. Melmetal is not quite as good as these other two, but I think Melmetal is objectively very good. Very high attack stat, very high HP and defense with usable special defense. Nothing crazy, but good. And it has a signature move called Double Iron Bash, which is a 60 base power steel type move that is technically classified as a punching move. And Melmetal has not the signature ability, but the ability Iron Fist, where it boosts the power of punching moves. So you now have you have a attack that hits twice and is very, very strong, coming off its insane stats. And this is going to be one of the few Pokemon in the game that can KO both Calyrex Ice and Calyrex Shadow with the same one move very consistently. And that's including Focus Sash on Calyrex Shadow Rider because it hits twice. Very good Pokemon into a lot of things. Any good physical type team would hate to run into a Melmetal, especially with like if you're up against like a Koraidon, like having Terra Water would be really good. If you're up against let's say Zamazenta, like Terra Fairy would be really good, right? And I think the sets that we're going to see the most of are probably going to be either like Assault Vest sets, or my personal favorite, and I'm excited to try it out, the Seed sets, where it's either Electric or Grassy Seed, and you get to boost up its defense by 1 stage. Melmetal also gets access to Body Press, so if you can give it a free +1 on its insanely high defense stat, and then give it Double Iron Bash, this thing is a monster offensively, and it's not going anywhere on the physical end for a long time. And with its HP stat, like, it's going to still take a hit from something like Calyrex Shadow. If you give it an Assault Vest, it's going to go even further. Melmetal is going to be really, really cool. It's not exactly like a super diverse Mon in terms of like what you're going to see on it, but I think it's going to have a couple really consistent sets, and it's going to be really good into a lot of general matchups. I'm very excited for it personally. Darkrai. Oh, how they did you so dirty. So they nerfed Darkrai's signature move, Dark Void, back in Gen 7. I'm sure most of you know this. Dark Void used to be 80 accuracy and could hit both opponents, putting them to sleep. It is now 55 accuracy and it can put both opponents to sleep, but it is gambling. And it's not doing much else otherwise. It's a mono dark type with like it's decent offensive stats, but at the same time in a doubles oriented game, it's not going to be that good. It's definitely more singles oriented these days, and there's going to be a common theme here where just use Chi-Yu. End of the day, Chi-Yu is Darkrai, but so much better. It doesn't have the utility of Dark Void, but like it's much more consistent everywhere else. Technically not bad. People will use this for like nasty plot stuff, but like I don't know what it's gonna do otherwise, right? Like maybe people will run like Gravity Sableye and like Wide Lens or Choice Scarf on this and just go for super fast Dark Voids and just try and gamble, but like it's not good, right? Like you can use it, but it's not going to be very good. It's not going to be very consistent. Not much else to say about Darkrai. Shaman Sky, terrible typing. Grass Flying is really bad. Its stats are good, and Serene Grace is nice. It can hit hard, but it's not hitting a lot of things in the format right now, and a lot of things in the format are just like decimating this. It's not doing much. As cool as it would be to run Seed Flare or Choice Scarf with Air Slash and go for flinches, like you can do that, but it's just not going to be enough. It does beat Urshifu. It does beat the crap out of Urshifu, but that's about like all it has going for it. And when you're looking at it from the perspective of like, is this really what you want to use your restricted slot on? This is not it. This is not the play. Speaking of Urshifu, we have special attacking Urshifu, except just kind of worse. Keldeo, I think, is definitely better than, like, it's a step up above all of these. Water Fighting is very good. Secret Sword is its signature move, where it is an 85 power special attack that also hits on the physically defensive end. So, like, up against something like an Assault Vest Incineroar, you would ignore the Assault Vest and then hit it on the physical end, which is great, right? But at the same time, if you're going to do that, like, just use Urshifu to crit through Intimidate, or use Urshifu to close combat something. Even if they don't have an Assault Vest, they could protect, right? Urshifu just ignores protect. Yes, Keldeo is faster, but that is not enough reason to justify it. It's ironic because its ability is justified, which is terrible, by the way. Like, you hit it with a dark type move and it gets an attack boost. Like, ooh, it's a special attacker. Who really cares, right? It's not good. People will use it because they like Keldeo, but again, it's not really worth a restricted slot, and it's not bad, but it just use Urshifu. Just use Urshifu. That's all you need to do. Meloetta is also not good. I think if we were in a format where Meloetta was, or where no restricteds were allowed to be used, right? If this was a non-restricted format, I think Meloetta could be good because you could give it something like a Throat Spray Hyper Voice kind of set, but as it is, it's not very good. Relic Song, I'll try and be brief. Relic Song transforms the normal and psychic special attacker into a physical fighting and normal attacker, and when you're using a special move to change forms into a physically attacking mon, and then like you're having to adjust your stats for that, like it gets weird and confusing. And then if you switch out this form, it comes back in as the other form, and then you have to click Relic Song again. It's not good. It's not consistent. If this was a no restricted format, then I could see this being kind of like a cool setup sweeper type deal with like Terra Normal, Hyper Voice, and Throat Spray. I think it'd be really cool. Unfortunately, as it is, it's just not doing a lot. So now the rest of these are like, they're pretty cool, but some of them are not very good. Genesect, I want to have faith that Genesect can be cool, and can be usable, because in the context of best of one closed team sheet, having the Steel Bug type with download, and then its whole gimmick is that it has access to the drive items, where it can get 4 different drives, each one correlates to a different type. And then you get essentially that type of move as a 120 base power special attack. So you have fire, electric, ice, and water. You have those as your types. And I feel like a surprise Techno Blast could be really good to like patch up a matchup. Kind of like Arceus, right? But at that point, you could also just use Arceus, right? Like, it is what it is. I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes, because it does have like some cool move sets behind it, and you can also go for like a choice band Genesect if you want to. if you could get like a choice band set or a choice scarf set with like the proper download boost, like you can have a +1/+1 effectively, just for switching it in, which is really cool. I think like Genesect is going to be one of those mons where like it'll mess you up when you are not ready for it in the worst way possible, or it's going to be dead weight. There's not going to be any in between about it. I have enough respect for it to think it can be good, and that's why it's going to be like niche but usable, but I definitely don't respect it enough to say that it's going to be as good as these three. Diancie, I have no idea. I have no idea where this thing is going to go. Super defensive rock and fairy type, and signature move has a 50% chance to boost its defense by 2 stages, so could become a huge problem as a physical wall, but also could not if you're not getting the proper RNG. And then I'm just not sure what else it does otherwise. Like I think it gets Meteor Beam, which is cool because you can get some good special attack stats going with it. But at the same time, like Rock isn't the super great offensive typing, and Fairy is great, but if you're not very fast and you're not hitting that hard without setting up, you're not doing a whole lot. But at the same time, like its bulk is insane. So I really genuinely don't know what people are going to do with this. So I don't really know where to place it. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put it here at like the top of this tier where it's like, it's technically not bad. I don't know if it has a niche or not, but it could very easily go into like either of these categories. I know it's not in like top tier. Probably not even the same as Melmetal, but I think it could be somewhere in this realm of possibility. I just don't know. If you have any idea of how you're going to use it, please let me know. I'm genuinely curious. I have no clue how to do it. Hoopa is fascinating to me. It is a dark psychic type with a lot of really good stats, but the issue is when you're dark psychic, you also are like 4 times weak to like U-turn from Rillaboom. But on the flip side, you're a psychic type who can beat Calyrex Shadow because its signature move is actually a physical dark type attack that goes through Protect. So in theory, even a Calyrex Shadow can't protect in front of this thing and be good, but at the same time, Calyrex Shadow is still going to hit you pretty hard. It does have a good special defense stat, so you'll definitely like eat a Astral Barrage for sure. But I don't really know what's going to happen with this thing. I think the biggest issue is like which set you're going to run with him. That being said, best of 1 closed team sheet, I think people are going to get away with some pretty nasty stuff. So, out of respect for him and the fact that he has 160 and 170 in his attacking stats, I'm going to put him in niche but usable because I think he will find a foothold in the meta, just not a very consistent one, I think. Hey, remember what I said about Darkrai? Yeah, Volcanion is in the exact same boat. Not quite the same, where it's so you are a water fire type that has water absorb, so you're a fire type that technically can beat Kyogre, but at the same time, like, you're just not doing enough. Its offensive stats aren't that great, its speed isn't that great, its bulk isn't that great, you're still weak to a lot of things in the meta, and unlike Walking Wake, who essentially is also, for all intents and purposes, Walking Wake is a water and fire type, right? Where it functions on both rain and sun, has access to fire and water moves, and unlike Volcanion, is very fast. And then also, unlike Volcanion, when the sun is up, it can still use its water moves, whereas Volcanion can't. And I just don't know what you're going to be doing with it. I think it's like this mon is outclassed by not 1 but 2 other Pokemon, where Chi-Yu is a better, generally speaking, a better fire type attacker because it just reduces the special defense of everything else on the other side of the field. And then it also does have a positive matchup versus Cali Shadow, which is great. And then it's also outclassed by Walking Wake because of all the things I just said about Walking Wake. I don't really know how this thing is ever going to be used. Someone's going to use it. It will fit on like a Kyogre or a Groudon team, but again, like, it's going to be suboptimal. At that point, just run Walking Wake. Not much else to say about that one. Marshadow is really cool. I do respect this one a lot. I think Marshadow is like kind of peak definition of like niche but usable, where Marshadow has a really cool attack where it's called Spectral Thief, and what it does is when it hits, you or I think actually before the move goes off, you steal your opponent's stat changes. So if a Calyrex Ice like has a +2 because it's KO'd 2 of your Pokemon and you bring out Marshadow, if you Spectral Thief, it will steal those attack boosts and then hit back with a very strong Ghost type move. It also has Technician, which is cool because it has access to like Mach Punch and Shadow Sneak. So Shadow Sneak from this thing will just outright KO Calyrex Shadow Rider, and then Mach Punch, while it's not great, it can still be used to like pick off 1 HP targets from like Focus Sashes or whatever. It's pretty fast. It hits pretty hard. I think it's like this is a Focus Sash Mon. If this wasn't a restricted slot, I could see Marshadow being used a lot more, again, as like a Calyrex Shadow check. But considering it takes up a restricted slot, I don't think it's going to see that much use. But I do respect it enough to understand that like it can be a real problem for people. Finally, we have Zeraora, and I forgot what this thing does. I gotta be so honest. I went to go look up its stats and its ability before I recorded all this, and I was kind of shocked by how bad this thing is. Like, it has a high speed stat, sure, but then like a very middle of the road attack and special attack stat. It's a pure electric type, and then it gets Volt Absorb. If this thing got Lightning Rod, I could see it being kind of good as like a Miraidon answer, where you could run like Terra Fairy Play Rough and then have Lightning Rod and then be able to hit Miraidon both before and after it Terras. Because if they use an electric type move, then cool, it could like boost up your Thunderbolt, or it could you could just ignore and use physical attacks anyway, right? Like, it is cool, but it's Volt Absorb, so like that's not great. And I think the only other thing it has going for it is like it can be a fast coaching Mon, but at the same time, so can Urshifu, so can Annihilate. So like, why would you ever really use this thing as a restricted option as opposed to anything else in the game? If you want an electric type, I think genuinely Raichu outclasses this thing, because at least Raichu has Fake Out and Lightning Rod, where this thing just has Volt Absorb. Like, it's just not made well. Like, they made Zeraora the same way they would have made a legendary back in like Gen 2 or 3, where it's like, oh, look at this, it's got one good stat and like an ability that's kind of meh, but it can be used. And that's where Zeraora ends up. And I think it's honestly just not worth the slot. I think it's like technically better than some of these, but like even that's up for debate. I would argue like Deoxys Normal is probably better than Zeraora, honestly. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end it. This was my second recording of this video. The first one was like 50 minutes, so I hope this one comes out to like half that time. Let me know what you guys think about like both where I'm placing things and then also like how you would use them to prove me wrong. If you think that like Diancie should not be here, I'm genuinely curious how you would make a case for it. And then same for like Shaman, Zeraora, any of these Pokemon. Like, I am genuinely curious because I have never played with a mythical Pokemon before. I think the ones that interest me the most personally are like Arceus, Melmetal, and Hoopa. Hoopa and Melmetal, I just really love their designs. And then Arceus, I love the idea of him just being like the perfect matchup patch for any given team. So I'm really, really excited to see how some of this format plays out. Also, Victini Groudon sounds fun too. But yeah, that's about it. So let me know what you guys think. I am still hosting some tournaments. I was doing some more past format stuff, but with this announcement, I'll probably transition to Reg H. And then also, I really want to run some like open team sheet Reg J stuff too. So we'll probably get to that at some point down the line. I'll post my Limitless stuff in the description below. And then also, if you follow me on Twitter, then that's where I'll always like do my announcement stuff. So yeah, but that's about it for right now. So let me know what y'all think, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.